Kafka's around the corner, and there's a couple things that I want you to know about her before she comes around. So listen in. What's going on, YouTube? Leisure here once again, this time at you again with some more Honkai Star Rail. And well, it's finally time to talk about my girl right here, Kafka. Ooh, look at her, ready to dominate. Oh gosh.
Seems I came at a bad time.
There's a few things that I did want to tell you guys about her. Kafka is a very interesting character. There's a lot of different aspects to her that are not like the other characters that we do have right now. I just want to touch on, right? So I just want to tell you the 5 things that the 5 tips that I want to give you guys before Kafka's release. So, but the first thing that I want to talk about is, well, who is she going to be good with? For me, this is my greatest dilemma, personally, because I find myself unsure of who to build to put on a team with her. I know who she'll be good with, but who do I pick? So what I mean by that, let's go over the different characters that I think are going to be good with Kafka. So we got Sampo, obviously, right? A lot of people know why Sampo is going to be good with her, mainly because of his interaction with DOTs, how he's able to reduce them, how he's able to attach a bunch of stacks of wind shear. You know, he's a great break effect unit that's going to be good at doing a lot of DOTs when it comes to that, and Kafka's going to love that. But who else? Then we got somebody like Luca, who's coming on Kafka's banner also, who is going to be doing bleed. And bleed does a lot of damage. He's going to be really good at attaching bleed because I think he's the only one that attaches bleed without actually having to break the enemy. So that is going to be another great thing and another parts of his kit that does help out when it comes to himself and Kafka. So it's going to be a great pairing right there. So those are some of the obvious ones right there. But then we have somebody like Pella. Pella, somebody's going to go great with her because she is going to reduce defense. And that's one great way to buff DOTs, because the ways to buff DOTs is to really increase the attack, increase whatever damage percentage you might have that goes directly towards DOTs, or decrease the enemy's defense. Pella is one of those ways where you can increase DOTs. So Pella's going to be another character you can build with her, right? So you might think, okay, well, maybe I can just do, Kafka, Sampo, some defensive unit, whether it's, Japard, Bailu, Luocha, or Natasha, and then put, Pella or Luca, end of the day. But that's not the end of it, because she has more. She has even more people that she can go good with. Some of these people don't really talk about. One of which people I do feel that there's a couple that I feel people do talk about. One is which is Silverwolf, of course, because Silverwolf is another person that reduces defense even more than Pella does to one single target, and she can help when it comes to breaking, when it comes to changing the enemy's element that they're weak to. So that's another thing right there. And if you're breaking the enemies a lot, that helps out because the DOT that you get from breaking an enemy are greater than the normal DOTs that you get from just the regular skills and abilities. So you want to break the enemy a lot too. So Silverwolf's going to help with that. So she's also great. But then you also have somebody like Asta. Now Asta is actually also going to be phenomenal because, like what I said before, attack helps out with DOTs a lot. And what does Asta do? She raises attack, but she also raises speed, which Kafka wants because she wants to keep going and going and going, right? She wants to be able to attach those DOTs, proc them, attach the DOTs. She wants a lot of speed. Asta almost seems built perfectly for this because not only could she do that, she's good at breaking. So she's going to be able to, and she has ways to attach burn. So she's going to be able to attach burn to the enemy, which is another DOT you can use. And you can stack her with break effect, where her burns can do a lot. And then Kafka's going to constantly hit those burns. So she goes good with Kafka too. She goes great with Kafka. Then you have somebody that nobody really talks about, Sushang. Sushang is great with Kafka because she is really good at breaking the enemy. And with her constellation, she has some built-in break effect. So she gets, I believe one of her constellations gets a 40% break effect. So if you give some break effect from her substats, maybe even a 2-piece set that she might give her some more break effect with, and the additional damage she does do on her own as a single target damage dealer, now Kafka's doing more damage because she got the bleeds going on with her, and Sushang is doing her thing, and she's breaking enemies too. So this also goes great. So you can stick those people together too. So that's going to be great. And then if that's not enough, then you got somebody like Himiko who might be able to go good with it. Because Himiko, of course, is good when it comes to breaking enemy shields because of her follow-up attacks. She gets her procs when you do break the enemy shields, so on and so forth. So like that's also going to be great too. And she also applies burn, even though her burn is relatively weak. If she does have some break effect, then her burns can be a little bit stronger. And she also does her own damage too, and she's able to do it in AoE situations. So there's so many characters that Kafka can go good with that you might not normally use on other teams too. For some of these people, like Sampo and Luca. So when it comes to that, it's like, who do I put her with? What am I going to do in terms of that? And that's something that I really want to. That's something that I'm personally having a dilemma with, and I'm not exactly sure who I want to pick. But I want you guys to know the different options that you have. So take a look at your account. See all those different people that I said. Do you have those people that you want to build up and put with her? You can do that. That's going to be great for you right there. But I just want you guys to know what your options are. I don't know who I'm going to pick yet. Chances are I'm probably going to do Kafka, Sampo, Pella, and Bailu probably. Or whatever defensive unit I want to use and call it a day. But as time goes on and I get more resources, I plan on building up more people. And I really, really want to see how Asta works with her, because I think that's going to be a beautiful, beautiful pairing. Second thing I want to bring up is, well, isn't she good with, right? Well, I do want to say that when looking at her, there are some things that you probably want to avoid doing. One of which is pairing her with an imaginary unit, right? Besides like Luocha for defensive purposes, of course. But you want to probably try to avoid doing that, because when it comes to imaginary units, they don't apply DOTs. When they break, they're delaying the enemy and lowering that action, so that's really good when it comes to regular damage dealers. When it comes to somebody who wants to get as much DOTs as possible, Imaginary doesn't really have anything to add to that. And same thing when it comes to Ice. Ice, they do have small DOTs that they do, but it's small, it's minuscule. The main purpose of Ice is to freeze the enemy in place. So Pella is probably the only one that you really want to be able to use in that situation, because she's reducing defense. So that's going to help out the DOTs in that sense. But I'd say those types of allies you want to probably keep away from Kafka, because they're not helping her out too much in terms of what the element can do for them, right? Unless some characters come out where their kits are strictly just obviously better for them, then yeah, of course, go ahead. But when it comes to simple that and based on what we have in the roster, you might want to stay away from. And now let's talk about the stats that Kafka wants, because Kafka is a damage dealer, but she's not built like your normal Hunt or Erudition damage dealers. You're gonna build her differently. So when it comes to her body, right, the body piece that you put on her, you're gonna want to do like an attack body instead of doing a crit body, right? So you want to do something like that. She wants to have a lot of speed, so of course you want to put speed boots on her. She does do her own damage somewhat, so you want to put some lightning on her and stuff like that. And that also does help with her all the different types, sorts of lightning damage she puts out. And also, of course, you want to put an attack rope on her, or maybe break effect. I'm probably going to do attack, mainly because, she's not always going to be the one breaking, but break effect is an option that you can use. And I want to test out both of them to see which one I actually do prefer. But that is an option. You can put break effect on the rope, you can put attack on the rope. Some people might put energy on the rope. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to sacrifice the damage. But it's a possibility. You can do that. When it comes to the substats, you definitely want to get break effect substats. You also want to definitely get a lot of attack, as much attack as you can right there. Don't worry too much about crit and crit damage. You can do that if you want, if you want to see her put up her numbers by herself, but just as long as you have the other stats covered. And I want to touch on effect hit rate, because I feel like people are going to go heavy for effect hit rate because you want her to put the shock damage on and everything like that. Well, the fact of the matter is, she doesn't need a lot of effect hit rate. So you're going to want to have some substats. But you don't want to have, I'd say 18-20% effect hit rate in the substats and you're good to go. You don't need to keep stacking it on, because the base chance of her applying shock is 100%, which is pretty good. Then she also has that in her traces. She also has some effect hit rate in her traces. it's not something big that you need to keep gunning for. You need to keep gunning for, but you just need to make sure you get, a couple of effect hit rate stats here and there to make sure you get that. So right now I have Yang Qing. I'm wearing her set right now, and I'm going to be putting the Thunder set on her, the Lightning set on her right there. Why? Because it's giving her some lightning damage, which she does want, of course, and it's giving her 20% attack, which is something that she really wants. Now, people couldn't think about putting, break effect set on her, which I probably wouldn't do, because she has to be the one breaking in order to take advantage of that. So I wouldn't necessarily put that on her right there, because even though she's going to be breaking a lot and you want her to break, she's not always going to be the one breaking. Most of the time she's going to have Sample on the team, and Sample's going to be breaking probably more often than she is. I'd rather just do the guaranteed increase of attack. You can also do 2-piece Musketeer. A lot of people are going to be doing the 2-piece Speed set right there, which is also, I'd say, almost just as good as doing the 4-piece Lightning set. So that's something that you can put right there, So that's a little tip right there for you guys right there. I'm not going to go full in depth with it as if this is a whole guide on Kafka, but it's something I wanted to touch on so you guys have an idea of what to prepare for.
Bo.
But another thing that I want to touch on when it comes to Kafka is she's going to take some heavy investment. And I don't just mean her, I mean her entire team. Why? Because when it comes to dots, they scale on level a lot. You want, in order to maximize the damage of the team, you want to make sure the supports to other people who are applying the DOTs have 80 also. So for me, I'm going to be getting Sample up to 80. I'm going to be getting Kafka up to 80. And let's say if I want to put Asa, I'm probably going to have to be bringing Asa up to 80 if I want to put Asa with it. I'm going to be putting in a lot of resources and trying to make sure that this team works the way that it should. That's expensive. That's very expensive, right? So she's going to be more expensive of a team to build than what Blade did. Because Blade, I just need to make sure he was good, and then the rest of the people on his team, Branya is still 70, Luoch is still 70, Silver Wolf is 75. When I have Pella on the team instead of Silver Wolf, I have her at 70. You don't have to maximize every team member on there. You just need to have them good enough. But with Kafka, you want to make sure that they're high as possible. So that's very expensive to do. So that's kind of one warning I want to give you guys about Kafka and when it comes to building your team.
There is only one thing I can tell you about the future.
I want to touch on something a little bit more abstract when it comes to her value. Her value as a unit. Because I am a firm believer that Kafka has very, very high value. Right? Because let's look at someone like Jinyuan, right? He's somebody that gets a lot of hate. I think that is some of it's uncalled for, of course. He is a powerful unit. He's a strong unit. But what happens to Jinyuan when somebody that's lightning, that's a straight-up damage dealer? Because Jinyuan and Kafka are going to have a slightly different role, so I'm not saying Kafka is that person. But let's say another straight-up erudition lightning damage dealer comes and just deals more damage than Jinyuan does. Well, then he's phased out. That's it for him, right? Like that's the same thing when it comes to Zila. Another Hunt quantum damage dealer comes out, deals more damage than Sealy, then she's phased out too, right? So, when it comes to that, damage dealers typically, they're pretty easy to fall into the back burner, to get thrown on their bench. But the thing with Kafka is that she is using the other team's damage as her own damage. So because of that, she's enabling other people, meaning that as the other units improve, Kafka improves, meaning making her a future-proof unit. So let's say we're putting her as Sample now, but let's say another wind damage dealer that puts Wind Chiron better than Sampo, the DOTs are stronger, then that makes Kafka stronger. Let's say, somebody else comes out. They do a 5-star bleed unit comes out. Kafka is now stronger again. Somebody else that buffs DOTs. Kafka is stronger again. So these things, it allows Kafka to have kind of a strange relationship where she's able to gain value, more and more value as time goes on, where she becomes very hard to power creep because a unit would have to come out that is lightning, that does exactly what she does in terms of fighting with other people's dots. and then do it better than her. That's a very specific unit, and we might not get that for quite a long time. She's someone like kind of like Silverwolf, where the thing she does is pretty much niche. So you're not going to see somebody that's going to have Silverwolf's exact kit that comes out for quite a while. That's going to be able to power creep her. So Kafka's going to be within that same thing. It's going to be the same thing right there. So even if she comes out and she's not as powerful as people want her to be, because I know when she comes out, people are going to be complaining that she doesn't do as much damage, probably mainly because, the sample's level 60 or something, and they might not have her built right. They might have her built with crit, so on and so forth. There are going to be some naysayers when she comes out because she's a unit that's probably going to take some brain power to use, which is okay. People will learn in time. That happens all the time. But as time goes on, when people have their units maxed out, when new units come out that do some better DOTs, she's gonna keep rising up and up and up and up and up, and she's future proof in that sense. In my opinion, I think she's gonna be very future proof. So I do want to get that message out to you guys, right? That's the last thing that I wanted to tell you guys right there when it comes to the different tips. I do think she's very future proof, and I do think she's going to be a great investment for you. But it all comes down to preference. Is that what you want? Are you willing to put in the extra investment to how expensive her teams are? Do you have the units that I said that she goes good with? Do you use any of them? Do you want to build those units up? Things like that. And with these 5 tips, I hope that does help clear things up for you, does give you a brighter goal. If it does help you out, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if the advice I've been giving for you guys is doing its job. Are you going to be pulling for Kafka? And if you like the content, definitely like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can get more content like this. With that on the here, Legend out.